Well, I'm so excited to welcome Mike Watts to the Core Connections podcast today. So welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Erica. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on today. I know that you do a lot of the sleep recovery research for Under Armour. So could you share just a little bit more about what you do and what got you into that? And then we can really start diving into, some awesome conversation around sleep and sleep recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been involved within the health, wellness, and fitness space for nearly 18 years now. And for the last sort of 15 years, I've been involved more at the pinnacle level of elite performance. So athletes from different sports and teams. And I spent the majority of my time in professional soccer back in England. And obviously sleep is a big part of recovery for an athlete. And when I transitioned and made the move to Under Armour, my boss, who's the VP of human performance, really gave me the ability to go and research this area deeply, and just said to me, go and understand sleep better than any other person on the planet, and off you go. And Paul Winter, who is my boss, is an incredible mentor and a bit of a visionary within the space of human performance. And he's really given me the ability to go and explore and search this area of recovery and sleep that I think you don't get the luxury to do when you work within pro sport or professional sport or maybe even academia, because people maybe look at things within isolation, or they look at it about how it applies to their life or to their particular area. And Paul really gave me the ability to just say, fly free and really explore this area, bring this knowledge back from different teams, organizations, individuals, and let's see how we can really apply this to our athletes and to our consumer to help really benefit them and support them. So my role is Director of Athlete Performance at Under Armour. I provide this performance service around performance, which includes recovery, and a big part of recovery, as we know, is this area of sleep, which I absolutely adore. I think it's a fascinating area, and the sort of last 4 years I've deeply been researching it, and it's almost the more you sort of learn and the more you know about it, the deeper rabbit holes you start to go down with it. So yeah, it is a fascinating area for sure.
Oh, I know a lot about going down rabbit holes when it comes to learning about things about the body, right? It's so fascinating. It's like the more we start to understand, the more questions that we have. And I think sleep, no matter whether you're an athlete, it doesn't really matter. Sleep is so important for all of us. So what are some of the biggest things that you found in research as far as sleep goes, and sleep recovery? I'm going to let you go ahead and take it and share with us, what your top tips are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we start with the why, and why is sleep important, and why should we care about sleep, and why should we protect our sleep? And it doesn't matter who you are on the planet, we all need to sleep. And the majority of us need to sleep probably longer than we do. There is a certain percentage of the population that doesn't require this sort of 7 to 8 hours, and 8 to 10 hours for athletes. But that percentage of the population, rounded to the nearest whole figure, is 0%. So let's just assume that most of us need to sleep. And we know that it has benefits in terms of our performance, and that could be through increasing power outputs or strength or skill acquisition. It can help our cognitive function from learning and memory. It can actually make us just be a better human being as well, in terms of how we act and how we think and decisions that we make. And also body composition. Like, most people I meet are interested in having a healthy body composition, and sleep can really help aid and facilitate body composition. And a big buzzword now that I think we hear is longevity, and how people are looking to optimize their health and wellness and their longevity. And we're seeing the links of sleep, and how sleep is this anabolic state, and and it can take away inflammation from the body and the brain. And we look at the lymphatic and the glymphatic system and really start to understand how sleep is a recovery tool, and it helps us perform, and it helps us function, and I really think it's an important part of everybody's life. And it's something that we just always start with a why and say, okay, so now I understand why it matters. Now let's understand how I can try and optimize my own journey around sleep.
So when it comes to the why behind sleep, like, okay, so like you just said, like literally 0% of people out there really should be getting less than 7 hours, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I think for the average population, if you're not a high performance athlete, I think 7 hours, 8 hours is a good ballpark figure, and that allows us to get enough sleep in terms of our deep sleep and REM sleep. We talk about sleep architecture, and you might hear people talk about different phases of sleep, like light and deep and REM, and we now understand that we sort of go through these cycles during a night's sleep. And people will say, oh, it's around 90 minutes for a cycle of sleep. And we now know that not all cycles are created equally. They have different amounts of deep sleep, and they have different amounts of REM sleep. And we seem to get more REM sleep towards the end of the 7 to 8 hours versus the beginning. So that's why it's important that we have that total sort of numbers and duration of sleep.
So Mike, can I have you, I just want to pause you for a second. Can you go into like why REM sleep and why deep sleep? Like I have an Aura ring that I wear, and I'm open to any, like what you recommend for people like tracking their sleep, because I don't know that you can know what your sleep is unless you're tracking it with something good. And I personally like the Aura ring, and open to other suggestions, partly because it doesn't have to run constant EMFs through the body, which was a big sell for me. But it was very interesting because I've worked on tracking my sleep, and I can recognize certain things that I do, whether it's during the day or more in the evening, and how it dramatically has impacted my sleep. And it's very interesting because I have nights where I can have about 25% deep sleep and 25% REM sleep. But I don't know if I ever had that previously, probably since becoming an adult and having kids, until I actually started being like, I'm so tired all the time. And I was dealing with chronic fatigue stuff from mold toxicity and, all sorts of stuff that was going on. And I think so many women in particular deal with that, especially moms. A lot of my audience is moms, and we're used to just like pushing and pushing and pushing ourselves. So can you just talk a little bit more about REM and deep sleep so that everyone can understand like really the importance of them too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think really to simplify it and understand what they are and why they're important, if we start with deep sleep, we see this more as like this deep sleep that can restore our body and our cells and really help us build, and it becomes this sort of anabolic state of growth and growth hormone and recovering sore muscles and cells, and really it's the building block to help us recover. And it's so important that we can try and protect that and make sure that we get as good a deep sleep and the quality of the deep sleep is as good as possible. And whereas if we flip more to the REM side, which stands for rapid eye movement, we're starting to talk about more like the cognitive side. So I always say it's a little bit like a memory stick. And if you think about, you fill a memory stick full of information, and at some point you have to take the information off. And the REM sleep gives us that ability to consolidate information, whether that be stuff we do or don't need, because we're constantly taking the information, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, and it's filling up the hard drive, so to speak. So REM gives us that opportunity just to unload really and consolidate, get rid of what we don't need, keep what we do need, and also give the brain a chance to detoxify in a way. We see a lot of people who don't get enough quality REM sleep, and there's this association with some cognitive diseases like Alzheimer's or dementia. So it's really, really important for the brain, really, the REM side. So it's quite a simplistic way of looking at it, but you sort of think like deep sleep really restoring the body and elevating growth hormone, and maybe REM is a little bit more like for the cognition side.
So when you talked about like the brain specifically, like I've heard the term of what they call brain washing, right? And like you hear that kind of with longevity and things like that. And can you speak more to that? Like there's that, like, I guess what I've heard about it is like you need to make sure you haven't eaten food so many hours before bed so your body's not digesting, and rather it can actually allow the brain to do its brainwashing, I guess.
So yeah, you're referring to almost like a system in the brain called the glymphatic system. And I think most people now have heard of the lymphatic system. And this is the system that's really detoxifying the body. And there's these areas and nodes within the system that are almost like cleaning and helping us detoxify. And the brain is no different. And recently they've discovered this glymphatic system. And there's a fluid called amyloid fluid that can build up. And you almost can think of like that as a plaque. And this plaque will build up in the brain. And if we get good quality sleep with REM sleep, we can start to almost sort of wash that plaque away and give ourselves a chance just to have this clarity of thought and this clear brain. So it's really, really important when we start talking about the glymphatic system. And even now some research lending itself to say potentially the way in which we sleep, whether we sleep on our front or our back or our side, will help with the drainage of the glymphatic system. So some support saying side lying or sleeping on your side is more beneficial than sleeping on your back. And breathing plays a part in that as well, but definitely for the glymphatic system to say, think about how we can detoxify the brain, not just from thoughts and memories and information that we're taking in, but also we're surrounded by a ton of toxins as well now. And we're trying to give ourselves this opportunity. You mentioned mold there as a big one. Like we're trying to give our bodies and brains the chance to detoxify. And there's a number of things we can do, including our air quality and maybe making sure that I personally have an air doctor in our room and use that to sort of take away some of the particles that might be harmful, or maybe it's the quality of the mattress that you sleep on, or the pillows, or the bed sheets, because it all matters. And we're trying to really avoid these toxins that can either disrupt our hormones or just cause more inflammation and more toxins within our body and brain. So yeah, we can't speak enough or talk highly enough of how important REM sleep is. And let's just sort of point out, you only really get the majority of REM sleep towards the end of the night. And you've probably seen that on your data through the Aura Ring. I'm in that community as well, and I've probably got about 4 years worth of sleep data. And I love my Aura Ring, and I have some sort of tips and advice around how I use that data, but it's a really good tool to sort of monitor and check in on your sleep and how different things might influence your sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been quite eye-opening for me. Could you speak to light and its effects for sleep? Like, I'm assuming that you do things around light in the evening, because like, I know for me, it makes a profound effect. I love that you talked about having clean air. I have a air purifier right next to my bed as well, because it is so important.
Yeah. So arguably light is one of the go-to and main things that we'll talk to people about in terms of getting quality sleep. And the crazy thing is it starts when you wake up, and we say a good night's sleep starts as soon as you wake, and light plays a role in that as soon as you wake. So light really helps with the production of serotonin, and if we can get serotonin into the body early on in the morning and waking, it's actually going to help us sleep, because serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. And a lot of people will have heard of melatonin as the sleep hormone. And if we talk about the physiology of sleeping, when we go to bed and it's time to sleep, we want melatonin to rise and increase. And one of the things that suppresses melatonin is blue light. And this is where it comes into the conversation of light. And yeah, unfortunately, iPads and TVs and phones, they all emit a ton of blue light. And that blue light suppresses melatonin. And we need melatonin to make us feel tired and give us quality sleep. So that's a really important hormone, and it's linked to light. So what do people do? So I personally wear blue light blocking glasses every night, and I put them on around 2 hours before I sleep. So they go on every night. And I also have special lighting that is actually linked to a GPS system where it can toggle between the right wavelengths of light. So I get a different light in the evening than I do in the daytime. So I live in Portland, Oregon, and we don't always get super strong light in the morning. So in the evening, it gives me a different wavelength, and it's not suppressing melatonin. And then I've also got my blue light blocking glasses on. So there's ways that we can sort of artificially create the right type of light in the morning and in the evening, just with some of the technology that's available now. And really, for me, the blue light blocking glasses is a no-brainer, really, just to sort of help with that melatonin suppression and make sure that I'm producing the right amounts at the right time.
So do you wear the red blue blocking glasses or the yellow, or do you do like the clear? Because I know like they each, if you do the red ones, you're really cutting out like 100%. But then if you're reading something on the computer, it cuts out everything red and you miss some things. So I have noticed that, but.
Yeah, I do the like orangey hue tone light blockers. And I think we need to get it right that this mitigates some of the harmful effects of blue light. It's not completely cutting out. So people can't expect to put on blue light blocking glasses and it be okay. Really, what we're saying to people is stop looking at screens or blue light at least 30 minutes before you go to bed. And that becomes part of what we call high performance habits. We talk a lot about how we can create these high performance habits, and that really would be one saying, when are you going to stop being in front of a device, and how are you going to sort of dial down your body?
And even just, I know you mentioned your light system, which I'd be interested to know what that system is called. But like even in my house, like one thing that we strive to do is instead of having like the crazy bright white like LEDs, like ours have a little more of a yellow hue. They're like they're a warmer. And then in the evening, like having dimmers, right? And just even keeping lights down. And I know you can get little, like in the bathroom, we have like it's not a red light, but it's kind of a yellowy orangey light, but it's just enough that like in the evening when you're getting ready to go to bed, you have enough light to get ready to go to bed versus like turning on your bathroom lights. I personally notice a huge difference if I don't have to turn on that light when I'm getting ready for bed. So those are just some like really like just inexpensive things you can already do around your house. Is just watching your lights that you do have on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't need to go to the really fancy GPS system of having this light that can automatically change. Like the company I use is called Lighting Science, and they're amazing. And they built light bulbs really for the space station. So
Wow.
people within space would have a day-night cycle. And that's where that technology came from. And they do other products that are easy to fit, just normal light bulbs. And it's really, really important. And I think you only have to look out of your window and look down the street to see how much blue light is being emitted from somebody's TV or through even the lights on somebody's house outside. Like, we're surrounded by it, and it's pollution, and it's toxic towards us, and it's disrupting our sleep in a big, big way.
So it's disrupting sleep, but it's also, because it's disrupting sleep, it's causing a trickle effect for so many other things in the body, right? Inflammation and all sorts of things, right?
Yeah. obviously sleep plays a massive role in all functions of our body. And if we start talking about, we always start with the circadian rhythm, and you think about this day-night cycle and how our body is reacting to the sun, and it's releasing certain types of hormones, whether it be cortisol. Our body temperature is very much linked to day-night cycles, and melatonin, and then we can get into other hormones as well. And if we don't protect our sleep and look after it, then we can really start to push and mess around our hormones and start to create confusion really in our body. And people may have heard of social jet lag, and this is the Monday morning blues, as maybe people know it as where maybe on a Monday to Friday we have a strict regime and we get up at a certain time, and that's through an alarm clock, and at the weekend we allow ourselves to lie in, and then come Monday morning we have to get back up at like the 6 a.m. and we've shifted our circadian rhythm just by staying in bed for an hour and a half extra on the Saturday and Sunday. And it's actually equivalent from flying to New York, Paris and back again in a weekend by shifting your circadian rhythm like that. So it's really important that we respect our day-night cycles, we respect the importance of light, and we respect how much it is impacting on our hormonal response, whether it be leptin and ghrelin, which control our satiety or hunger hormones, and it affects our blood sugar and it affects our insulin levels. Like, it's really, really important for our health, really, that we respect and protect our sleep.
So, Mike, I just heard you say that people could have insulin issues that's more brought on because of lack of sleep or lack of quality of sleep. It's not always about diet. I heard this in a conversation the other day, and it totally made me think of this conversation we were going to have, and like how we forget how important sleep is, but like we're talking about, it's quality of sleep as well, not just quantity. So understanding that sleep could make you, having insulin issues, which is a really, really, really big problem for the body. But it can be reversed, right? If we can start to clean up our sleep, correct?
Yeah, the body's an amazing tool, and we can obviously abuse our body a little bit in terms of missing sleep or nutrition or whatever we might do to it, but it can recover. And if we talk about insulin sensitivity, there's links and research to even just one really, really poor night's sleep can almost make us pre-diabetic, and it can mess our insulin levels up that much. And unfortunately for us, our ghrelin hormone will increase, so we feel hungrier after a bad night's sleep. And then also the logical part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex of the brain, starts to actually shut down after a lack of sleep. So we start to make bad decisions. So you layer those three things on top of each other, making bad decisions, feeling hungry, and having this insulin sensitivity problem. That's not good for body composition, and it's very easy to put weight on it in that circumstance. So that's just from one bad night's sleep. But yeah, it's very easy to reverse the effects, and if you start to think about how you can put your building blocks in place to have better quality sleep, it's not difficult to do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it's one of those things you can definitely hack. Okay, I want to shift a little bit, and I want to talk about, because I know you work for Under Armour, and I know about their sleep line that they have of clothing, and it's been out for, I think, about 2 years now, right? And Tom Brady was like the face of it. I remember when it was brand new, and I was very fascinated by this. I think I heard it maybe on another podcast. Someone was talking about, I don't know if it was Under Armour specifically, but talking about how clothing can help us have better recovery in the evening. So I have a lot of questions around this. I know, okay, can you talk about, I guess, what's in the sleep, clothing, the sleepwear that is supposed to help with the recovery? Like, how is that even possible?
No, it's a secret I can't tell you. it is fascinating. So Under Armour have done an amazing job at looking at how we can use technologies within apparel to help us recover. And one thing that we have is a sleepwear line, and it has far infrared technology in it. So most people will probably be familiar as saunas having far infrared technology, and we have that technology within our sleepwear. So really what that's doing is reflecting your own body heat off the bioceramic material and reflecting that back into your tissue, which is creating increased blood flow. And we know that increased blood flow is linked to improved recovery, and it really is sort of just helping the body recover. And it's a huge opportunity if we're trying to tell people to sleep minimum of 7 hours up to 10 hours. It's an opportunity for you to recover. And if you can start to give yourself these small advantages during times when you're not actually having to think or do anything, it's amazing. And I have the sleepwear as part of my routine and ritual for the physiological benefits of blood flow and recovery. There's also a huge impact of that neuro association of actually wearing sleepwear to bed and having your brain associate pajamas or sleepwear with sleep. So it's another huge benefit. They're amazingly comfortable as well, which helps. And yeah, it's something we give all of our athletes, and I think they'll always testify to say how amazing it is. But it's just a really, really good way to sort of enhance that recovery time while you sleep with product. And they've done an amazing job with the sleepwear in it, and it really does add to my sleep hygiene, let's say.
Yeah, it's on my list to try. I haven't got to it yet, but I definitely want to, because I'm fascinated by it, to be like, I understand enough about the technology behind it. So I have a question. When you're talking about the far infrared, like it's reflecting that back, but how does it do that, right? Because you said, I have a far infrared sauna, right? We tend to associate it with heat. So obviously our body is emitting heat, right? So is that where we're getting that far infrared from, is like the heat that we're actually giving off during the night?
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
Correct. So within the fabric, within the yarn in the fabric, they've taken minerals and crushed them down and made a thread and built the pajamas with this thread. And then that can deflect and reflect the heat back towards you, which, to your point there, is your body heat is the heat. So the heat from your body leaves, it hits the bioceramic in the material, and it's reflected back into your body to cause that vasodilation. So the opening up of the arteries so the blood can flow easier. So that's the mechanism, and that's really what's happening. So yeah, very similar to your sauna.
So because it's increasing blood flow, it's going to be really good for our lymphatic system, correct? I'm assuming.
Yeah, and any fluid dynamics is good for the lymphatic system. Yeah, so there should be that relationship where it should be helping with the lymphatic system.
So has there been any studies done specifically on how like improving your sleep recovery can help to improve? I mean, common sense is going to tell me yes, but I'm still going to ask this. Can improve like collagen synthesis, which means we can improve the function of the fascia, which is right. There's so much of that in our body. Has there been specific studies looking at that? I'm assuming if you're recovering, right, we've got decreased inflammation. So that's a powerful first step. But as far as actually looking at like collagen synthesis and improving that, like, I don't know what your stance is or what you know about any of that.
Yes. So to my knowledge, there's been no direct studies to look at the health of connective tissue or collagen. And we know that connective tissue has a poor blood supply. So when we start looking at tendons and ligaments, and whether that be through the knee or the hips or the shoulders or whatever that might be, we know that their blood supply is not as good as muscle tissue. I've not seen any direct studies that look at that, but you could make the assumption that improved blood flow would be helping through some of that area.
Yes, that would be what I would think with that. As far as like improved, like at like more that mitochondrial function, because I'm assuming that's where we're going with all this, are people noticing an improvement in their ATP, so that way they notice like an increase in their energy?
Potentially. I think when we start talking about maybe like cellular health and the mitochondria, I'm seeing more around near infrared and some of that light therapy, or versus maybe the far infrared. I think there's more links with far infrared around blood flow and that type of mechanism. So the sleepwear is not really on the wavelength of the near infrared, which is a shorter wavelength. So I would probably suggest that it won't be tapping so much into cellular health and mitochondria. It'll be very much more on the blood flow and the fluid dynamics versus going into the cellular health.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, because I was just curious on that, because I know that's something that, you know, comes up a lot, is like improving our mitochondrial function and improving our ATP production and all of that. But I've read enough to understand that people see a decrease in pain as well, whether it's muscle soreness or it's actual like physical pain in the body. So that's more linked to that this far infrared reflective heat is helping to decrease the inflammation, because we're getting better blood flow to the area. That's really like kind of the connecting of the dots.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about improved blood flow, red blood cells are carrying oxygen, and oxygen is diffusing into cells, which is helping with muscle soreness or quality of tissue. So I think, to your point as well, we're integrated. Like, things don't work in isolation.
Right.
So if we can, yeah, and if we can improve one thing, it has a knock-on effect to something else, and nothing's working in isolation. So I think it's really important to understand that it's not binary, and it's not just an on-off. It very much is this relationship of trying to look after all the systems and all the functions of the body, because we are integrated, and one thing influences another, and if we can be healthy in one area, it's going to help benefit and support something else. So I think you're definitely right there, and light therapy, and whether it be red light or near infrared or far infrared, is something of real interest to us. But obviously within our technologies, we really focused on that far infrared. And it's really an amazing piece of technology to put that within sleepwear and give people that benefit of being able to get the benefits of far infrared like on a daily basis for a long period of time, which is fascinating, really.
No, it is fascinating. I'm excited because I'm gonna try all this, and I'm gonna do a little experiment with myself and see what my sleep does, right? By just adding that in. And because I do so much with helping people improve how their fascia functions, I'm very curious to see the overlap, because I'm always talking about how everything is all connected. We can't just segment and do one thing, because there's a whole trickle effect, which is what's so interesting about sleep, because it has such a trickle effect around so many things. So can you share like some of them, like, I don't know if you have any stories or anything to share of like some of the most amazing things you've seen that have happened with people, whether it's athletes or, you know, a non-athlete, when it comes to wearing these, you know, the sleepwear that's reflecting back that far infrared heat into the body?
Yeah, well, I know one athlete that we work with quite heavily, and he wears his sleepwear for traveling as well. So he'll actually wear his on flights to try.
Question about that. Does that help protect and give a little shield? Because I know, like, talk about toxins and like dehydration when we're flying, and UV rays and all that, which I know you're not wearing it over your face, but does that athlete notice a huge difference when they think that that's giving like the body kind of a protection bubble in a sense?
I don't know to that point, and again, he's a really thoughtful athlete, and he's doing many different things around his health and wellness and longevity. So he layers on the nutrition, the mindset, the breathing, and he's wearing the sleepwear. So a combination of things, again, I think helps support us. So I don't know to that point of a protective element, but you speak to a lot of the athletes about the sleep and the sleepwear, and as I say, it's something that all of our athletes have, and they all speak very highly of it. And I think it's one of these things, once you have it, it's very difficult to go back and go into either normal sleepwear or go back to what you were doing before. So I think it speaks for itself, and we need to get you in some, get you trying it and sort of feel it for yourself, really.
Yeah. So when you started, because you said you have an Aura ring, and I know a lot of athletes do, because it's such a great way. And I think everybody honestly should have one, because it gives you so much feedback you can't otherwise get. But have you done, like, whether it's like a true study or just kind of like more observational studies, right? Seeing how someone's sleep shifts by tracking like their REM and deep sleep. Like, are we seeing that people are actually more easily getting into deep and REM sleep because their body is able to, recover more easily?
Yeah, it's interesting when you start to unpack that and start to look at the different variables that can either help or hinder our sleep quality. For me personally, I think I've got about 3 or 4 pairs, so I'm always in rotation of sleepwear, so I'm never without it, and whether that be at home or on the road, I'm always with it. So I'll have to try that one, to be honest, and see and report back. But it's almost I've got such a tight habits around my sleep now. It's almost autopilot, and definitely the sleepwear is one of those things that I have every night. But yeah, I'll have to try that, and I can report back for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely be tracking mine when I wear it, and we'll see if I notice an even better shift in sleep. But having personally worked on my sleep, it's literally been transformative, and I cannot recommend it enough. So a couple of questions I have, and I don't know if you'll know the answers to this, but since you do so much research around sleep, and obviously with the sleepwear, the clothing aspect, like you see, some clothing or different apparel type things that say have like silver in them, silver thread in them, or say copper, right? Can you speak to that as to like, is there actually like healing benefits to either one of those?
Yeah, I have seen a bit of research around the silver thread and how it can maybe support and help with inflammation. I've not experienced it or worn it or tried it myself. I think it can make apparel quite expensive. We're still at that point where it's not really totally accessible. It's still fairly expensive as a technology. So I don't have a ton of experience around the copper threads or the silver threads for helping with inflammation, but I know there's some promising research that's been done out there, and people are investigating it, and it normally starts within the medical world, really, where they're using it for something to help support maybe a medical condition, and then it usually filters into either the military or the professional sports, and then it filters its way down to us, the consumer. So I think we'd probably sit tight and see what happens maybe in other areas with that type of technology, and see if it really can help and benefit us for sure.
Well, yeah, it's interesting, all the new stuff that's out there, and you're always like, does this work? Does it not work? And I'm one to experiment with different things sometimes as they come along, if they gravitate towards me. So it's interesting. Okay, so when it comes to all this research that you've done around sleep, is there anything else that you haven't talked about, we haven't talked about today, that you're like, this is really fascinating information that can just help educate the listener? And I'm always up for learning new stuff. So
Yeah, I think we look at sleep and we know that it starts when we wake up. And I think if we can start to build our high performance habits and routines, it's really going to help us sleep. And not surprisingly, the biggest disruptor of sleep is stress. And I don't think it matters what supplement you take or what sort of magic potion or whatever you put on. If you can't sort of make sure that you manage your stress, then it's going to be really difficult to get to sleep and get quality sleep. So that's something we very much talk to our athletes and consumer about, is how we would think about stress. And stress can come in very different forms. It can be cognitive stress from how you think, what you stress about, whether it be relationships, financial. And we very much try and get our athletes to have intention and journal and show gratitude and try and do these things either in the morning or in the evening. And one of the big sort of tips we give our athletes is to have a journal, and in the evening maybe write down things that you're grateful for, and then also write down a worry list or write down a to-do list. And we're really trying to encourage them to declutter the brain and try and have more peace within the mind. And I think it's really important that we can try and take people to that point, and try and remove stress. So I'd say that would be definitely one of the indicators. Another one is this consistency around wake time and bedtime. People get that wrong, and they will shift their circadian rhythm. They'll have different wake schedules and sleep schedules based on weekdays or weekends, the holidays or whatever it might be. And we just say, hey, listen, if you really care about sleep, you're going to have to think about having this consistent bedtime and wake time. And we're talking about a 30-minute window on both sides. So try and go to bed. And you will have seen on your ordering on the day today, it will be suggesting your bedtime should be sort of 9:30 or whatever it should be.
Yeah, and I notice if you go over by 45 minutes, like I'll never get a score of 90 and up, and I'm like, gosh darn it. And like it really does make a difference. It's crazy. But here's a question for you with napping, right? Like I know like probably taking a 2-hour nap is frowned upon because I can see that throwing your system off, right? Sometimes you take a 2-hour long nap in the middle of the day, you're like on a Saturday, but it makes you feel more tired. So is it okay to take a nap? Because I know sometimes it's like, and I have a lot of moms listening too, right? So you're just like, they're trying as hard as they can sometimes even just to get sleep at night, especially if they have little ones. But I think this is important to emphasize, as soon as you can anyway, like start getting back and getting as best of a sleep schedule. But is it okay to take naps, even like a 20 or 30-minute, like little cat nap?
Yeah, naps are great. And
Okay.
I think what we find out within human performance and health and wellness is everybody's different, and you just have to see how you suit a nap. And when we look at the length of a nap, that can be anything from 20 to 30 minutes, because you're trying to avoid going into deep sleep. So if you think about a phase of sleep, it goes from light into deep, and then it comes back out again. You don't want to go into that deep sleep then wake up, because that is called sleep inertia. So when you wake up from deep sleep and you feel groggy and tired and lethargic, that's probably because you've woken up during a deep sleep phase. So it's very, very hard to take a nap and wake up at the right time. And then if you are going to sleep, you might as well try and sleep a whole phase, which could then be around 90 minutes. So you go in the deep and you come back out and you try and wake up in the light phase of sleep. But trying to figure that out is really tough to do. And I think as a mum or a parent naps are crucial. Like I have two boys, and me and my wife really put an emphasis on sleep for ourselves and our children, because we knew that it was going to be something that was going to, one, help their development physically and mentally, and it was going to help our sanity to get sleep. And I think as a new parent, you just need to try and steal as much sleep as you can when you can. And it's almost when the baby naps, try and nap, and you try and both be almost on the same sleep cycle, if you like, and try and get your children into good quality sleep habits and get them used to the day and night cycles, which sort of develops after a few months. They don't get it straight away. But as a parent, yeah, like finding time to get a nap, detach, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a nap. It could just be a meditation or a breathing or a body scan. If you're not a good napper, if you find that it doesn't help, you're just trying to restore a little bit of body and mind and cognitive function, and just give your nervous system a rest, really. And we know obviously napping can help with that, but also can some sort of meditation or breathing as well. So I think it's key as a parent to try and protect your sleep. And it was a big light bulb moment for me to say, I need to protect my sleep more when we have children, because they're the best alarm clock in the world, and you can't hit snooze on them. You have to get up. So yeah, I think those, those early days and weeks and months, it's more about survival. But if you have good routines and habits, I think you can anchor yourself and your child to them. But for anyone, I'd say, yeah, try naps, and they can be a good way to sort of overcome some sleep debt maybe that's built up in the week. And if naps don't work for you, maybe you can try other techniques. And breathing is a massive area, and that's a big interest for me, and how breathing influences quality of sleep as well. So yeah, that's probably an area I'd like to talk to you and explore for sure.
Yeah, do you want to speak to breathing and sleep? I would be interested to hear some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started researching breathing and the benefits, and there was a researcher called Patrick McKeown, and myself and my boss Paul, we started to speak to Patrick and talk about the benefits of functional breathing, and what are functional breathing, and what it is and what it does. And really, it's breathing in and out through your nose. That's it. And why it helps us become more parasympathetic, and it helps us deliver more oxygen to the cell. Super simple. So everyone can do it. Maybe if you've got a deviated septum or bunged up, then it becomes a little bit more tricky. So we started exploring this area, and now you're starting to see on the market mouth taping, and you're starting to see companies that are purpose building tape that you put on your mouth at night to encourage you to breathe in and out through your nose. And the science and the physiology is really, really strong around functional breathing. And if you become more of a functional breather, you're going to get deeper, more quality sleep for sure. And the evidence is there, the research is there. And I would really encourage people to start to look at how functional breathing can impact their health, wellness, and their sleep. And if we can become more of a nasal breather, it definitely helps. And I always try and push upon people to say, when you're in bed, let's take you through a breathing exercise. You inhale for 4 seconds through your nose, and then exhale for 6 seconds, which makes a 10-second breathing cycle. And you do that 6 times, and that's a minute. So you're taking 6 breaths a minute, and you will see on your Aura ring as well how many breaths per minute you take. And if you can decrease those breaths per minute, it's going to make you more relaxed, more parasympathetic, so that rest and digest. And it's just going to aid and help with sleep. So breathing is hugely important. And I know we sort of get spoken about maybe sleep apneas or problems with people breathing and sleeping and positions of sleeping. So I can't sort of talk enough about how important it is that we can breathe properly while we sleep, and it sort of links back to the quality of air, but also what we're doing in terms of let's start to try and teach ourselves to breathe in and out through our nose for sure.
Yeah, and I think because so many of my listeners have kids, is being aware of if your kids are mouth breathers or nose breathers. And I'm happy to, I mean, I can do a whole other podcast because I know a lot about this. I have 3 kiddos myself, and one of them was much more of a mouth breather, but we've done a lot of things to turn his health to where like now he's much more of a nose breather, probably not as much as he should be. But we've got him a lot more there. And I know that's so much more powerful. The whole mouth taping thing, I don't know. I'm always like, how many people put that on and feel like they can't breathe?
Yeah, that's the big barrier. It's obviously wanting to make sure, and there's contraindicators as well.
Yes.
If, for example, if you drink alcohol, like you should not be mouth taping. If you have a deviated septum, if you have some other conditions, underlying conditions, then you should not be mouth taping. Or if you do have sleep apnea, I wouldn't suggest it. So there are contraindications, but it is a good way to try and encourage us to deeper sleep, basically. But I'd probably suggest you start to do it within the day when you're conscious, and start to train. Yeah, maybe train it part of your evening ritual, and see how you get on and see how it goes. But it's really important that we can try and breathe properly. And as you say, we look at our kids and we know that through head position, we're starting actually to make the throat smaller. And with mouth breathers, they've just got a smaller windpipe to breathe through. And it's changing jaw lines, and it's having a real knock-on effect not to be able to just breathe through our nose. So it really does help if you can breathe more functionally through the nose. And it's a pretty easy fix, really, to start looking at breathing techniques throughout the day or in the evening, to help support our sleep as well. So definitely an area I would sort of encourage people to think about and focus on would be functional breathing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing up that point. And you've definitely made me make a side note to be like, I'm going to do another episode. I'm going to do some research and offer up some just suggestions for how people can help to improve that. Because I teach people how to breathe through their nose as well, because you get such better oxygenation, and you can open up when people get really tight in their lumbar and their lumbar spine. Like when you can learn to breathe through their nose, like you can get so much relief down there that you will never get breathing through your mouth. So it just shows the depth that you're getting so much deeper into your lungs, right? So it's super powerful. So I agree with you like 100% on that. So thank you, Mike. This is amazing. I love this topic of conversation. I think it's so important, and it's easy, to get overlooked. So hopefully, everyone listening, even if you picked one little thing, right, that you can just start to implement, because that's what it's always about. Just pick one thing to start to improve upon, start to make that more of a habit, and then just continue on. Can you let everybody know like where they can find maybe more information about sleep? I don't know. Are you putting your information out that people could reach out to you like on Instagram? Because I know you also do speak at some different events and things as well, correct?
Yeah. So yeah, a couple of things. I think my last thing I'd say is, and one thing I've learned is not every night's sleep is going to be perfect. So take the stress away from yourself and don't worry about it. I think we've become more aware of sleep and more aware of what our bedroom should be like, or what we should be doing, or what we should not be doing. Don't worry. If you get a bad night's sleep, it doesn't matter. There's another opportunity the next day. So I'd really sort of push on people to take that stress away. There's so many good people out there to read books on and look into the science of sleep. like books I would recommend, like it's an older one, Dr. James Mass on Power Sleep, which is an older one, but it's really, really good. I also like Dr. Chris Winter's Sleep Solution, which is a pretty good read, and Matthew Walker as well. It's called Why We Sleep. So some pretty good resources. If you're more into like the research world, then Dr. Shona Housen is an amazing researcher around sleep and recovery. And then with regards to myself, I do a little bit of speaking at events. They're usually sort of more performance-led, sort of like National Academy of Sports Medicine or NSCA, that type of thing. And yeah, I think I probably need to be a little bit more active on social media. I am on there as Michael Charles Watts, but maybe I need to start updating and posting some stuff. So yeah, if people start hitting me up, then I'll happily share. But it's a really interesting area. But I'll just say to people, don't stress about it. Like, it's simple, and just start with regular bedtimes, regular wake times, and make sure you can seek some light in the morning. And if you can get those three things in place, then you can start looking at the nuances of trying to get better sleep, because I think we've confused people, to be honest with you, Erica, and I think we've created a stress around sleep, and I'd say if you don't feel you need to look into it, then don't worry about it. But if you need to really improve your sleep, then there's tons of resources and people out there. And I know you obviously speak to your audience about sleep and health and wellness, and as we said at the start of the conversation, it's all linked, like how you think, how you move, what you eat. It's all linked to the quality of your sleep. So don't look at it in isolation. We're an integrated system, and everything we do matters. So yeah, just sort of take the stress away, and there's some really good people out there that can help.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. And I will put all those resources you mentioned in the show notes so everyone can find them. And I'll link to you so if they have more questions and want to reach directly out to you or want to know. I also have a lot of instructors that listen to me that are NASM. I'm NASM certified as well. So one of these days, maybe I'll make it to one of their events to see you speak. So thank you so much, Mike. And I so super appreciate this conversation. It was so great.
Yeah, thank you. It's an area I love, and I really appreciate speaking to you. Thanks, Erica.